City. Put your hands together for Dave Smith.
Too much, guys. Thank you so much. Thank you. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for coming out. I am so happy to be here. I'm thrilled you guys all came out. This is it. This is my first comedy special, and I get to do it right here in New York City, my hometown, where I've lived here my whole life. Greatest city in the world. I'm happy you guys all came out. The president, let me correct myself, our president. I say that just to piss off left-wing people. Absolutely no other reason. Remember when that was your thing? Yeah. Our president, or you're not a patriot. How's that working out? Anyway, our president is from New York City. Yeah, he's from New York City. And also, he's on tape saying grab him by the pussy. Coincidence? Probably not. I think it's that we have shitty values here, but it's what happens when you pick a New Yorker. Isn't that amazing? We have the President of the United States of America on tape saying grab him by the pussy. Do you ever just thank God that you're alive today? Because I do every single day. Every single day, I say thank you so much for letting me be alive today in these amazing grab him by the pussy times that we live in. Do you remember when that tape came out? When the grab him by the pussy tape leaked? Of course you do. I remember where I was. Never forget. It's like the Kennedy assassination, 9/11, and the grab him by the pussy. It's like every generation has their own. You knew right where you were when it happened. Like, I was making a pot of coffee, and then I dropped the mug, and it shattered. Unbelievable. I loved that moment. I think that might be the greatest moment in political history. It was just incredible. It was like, that's what I like. I hate all the phoniness. I like seeing people exposed. And everyone was exposed when the grab him by the pussy tape came out. Everyone. Trump, obviously, was very exposed. That was Trump at his most Trumpian. It even broke him. Trump apologized. Correct me if I'm wrong. I believe that's the only time he's ever apologized for anything. He's known for never apologizing. And the grab him by the pussy tape came out, and he was like, you got me. That was bad. That was pretty bad. I'm not proud of that. He was exposed. And then everyone was like, Trump's exposed, so he's fucked. But you know what they didn't count on is that the media was even more exposed by the whole. Do you remember the media coverage? It was insane. There were two things, okay? It was like fake shock and then fake outrage. So first off, they acted like they were shocked, which nobody was. We got a tape of Donald Trump saying exactly what we all thought he would be saying, like in private. It was and then the media was like, can you believe Donald Trump would say this? And we're like, yeah, absolutely, we can. He's a billionaire who's married multiple supermodels. Like, what did you think that, like, the media was your opinion of Donald Trump? Like, you know, I'm sure when the lights go off and the cameras go away, this man has nothing but the utmost respect for women. That was always what I thought. And then I was, like, what did you think the Trump tape was gonna be? It was gonna be like Trump, like, you know what I do with the women? I listen to them. That's I let them tell their story. And then, of course that's what Trump would say. And then they tried to act like outraged. Like it was the most horrific thing that's ever been said. And I'll be honest, I give female journalists a little bit of a pass. A little bit. But male journalists, I hope you die in a fire. Listen to me. If you acted like you've never heard anything like that, oh my God, I can't believe a man would talk this way. Oh. You remember Trump when he was defending it, he said, it was just locker room talk. And I'll never forget, I saw Jake Tapper on CNN. He was like, you know, I was in a fraternity in college, and I played sports all 4 years. I was in a lot of locker rooms, and I never heard any man talk like that. You're like, you unbelievable liar. Like, why? Why would you lie to women about the very nature of what we are? Like, why would you lie to women about what a man is? Of course men talk that way. Like, do you know what I say to my boys? If you were like, Dave, one of your phone calls with one of your closest boys has leaked, and we have the audio recording, and we're putting it out there, I would just quit. I mean, there's no coming back from it, so there's obviously no defense. I mean, what do you have? I'm sure it's something horrible. Like, what did I say? And they'll be like, you said grab him by the pussy. And I'll be like, oh, I'm back. All right, I mean, whatever. Grab him by the pussy. I mean, we're gonna walk this thing. That's it? You don't have the slavery thing, though, right? Okay. I was angry that day. I don't even believe that. I was in a bad mood. Just unwinded. And when I said before, women, I only give female journalists a little bit of a pass, because I think you should know better. I really do. Like, do any of you, women, are any of you operating under this ridiculous notion? Like, do you think, are you like, you know, when guys get together and talk, they would never say anything as crazy as, like, grabbing a woman. I mean, not by her private parts. Is that your impression of what men are? No, right? You know better than that. Of course, see, they know better. And this is what men, we need to stand up. You need to stand up to that, because women, you're a little phony in this department. They are. Like, women are, you know, anything sexual gets brought up, and women are very like, who would even do, you know? And at first, men believe you. But then we date a couple of you, and we're like, I'm not buying it anymore. I don't know. That's the fucking thing. See, here's the real politically incorrect truth that no one wants to say, but you guys all know it, okay? You know who kind of likes to get grabbed by the pussy? Women. Women. Yeah. No one wants to say that. But that's the truth. Women like to get grabbed by the pussy. I'm not saying all of them, but a shockingly large percentage of you. They'll never admit it in public, but women kind of like to get grabbed by the pussy. Like, that's, you know, if it gets brought up, women are like, who would ever want to get? You. You know? I've never heard of anything like that. Really? You haven't heard of anything like this? Have you ever thumbed through a romance novel? You know who the lead guy is? It's never some modern man who's like, you know, I work in a cubicle and I consider myself a feminist ally. I was like, that's not, never that guy. It's not. It's never like, I always ask permission. I'm like, is this okay? How about now? Is that, no, is that? And women are like, he's so dreamy. No, it's never that guy, okay? You look at a romance novel, you know who the lead guy is? It's Trump. 10 out of 10 fucking times. It's Trump. It's like some rich asshole going around grabbing bitches by the pussy. That's who women flick their bean to. That guy, okay? Yeah, not my opinion. It's a fact. Record high book sales will back this up. I'm just relaying information. I'm not pretending to understand it. It's a mystery to me. I don't even kind of get it. Who the fuck reads porn? It's all insane, but you guys are weird creatures. That's all I'm saying, but you like to get grabbed by the pussy. So, like, let's be honest. Let's be fucking... It's an amazing time to be alive. I love it. Like, I love talking about Trump. Like, you guys are my fucking people, so I can talk to you. But you should see, like, I try to talk about him at clubs, and, man, people hate Trump. Like, the left-wing people who hate Trump, I think, hate him more than I've ever seen any human beings hate anyone. Like, it's insane. You get on stage, you just mention Trump. You're like, I was watching the news the other day, and Trump's on, and they're already like, what? Do you hate him? You better say you hate him soon. Are you on my team? If you're not on my team, I want you out of here. Like, what do you? And you're like, Jesus, calm down. Like, take a breath. That's my advice to all you people who hate Trump. Just take a fucking breath. You're blowing it. You're all overplaying your hand. You're making them look better. I hope they get that. Right away, it was like, Trump's Hitler. The second he came out, Trump is Hitler. I've heard that so many times now, that Trump is Hitler. I swear, if he's anything short of Hitler, I'm gonna be like, he did a pretty good job, you know? Like, that's what you guys have done. Congratulations. Or I'll be like, yeah, Trump was pretty good. And you'll be like, pretty good? He gassed 20,000 people. I'll be like, only 20,000. You guys were making it out like it was gonna be a whole thing, and then sort of Hitler, you were an alarmist, really, at the end of the day. It's like one guy makes a layup, you're like, he's MJ. Relax, you know? Give him time. Let him work. That's my advice to the people who hate Trump. It's like, stop blowing it, stop overplaying your hand. And also, the other thing is, it's just like, look, I get that you hate him, but take a deep breath, take a step back, and just appreciate the moment. I mean, it's fucking incredible. Like, look, no matter how you feel about Trump, what that guy pulled off is amazing. He is a fucking boss. I mean, he single-handedly broke the Matrix. Things will never be the same again. American history is on a different course now because this one guy decided to change it. It's pretty incredible. You ever listen to Donald Trump give a speech? You ever listen to it? It's amazing. It's amazing. Here's something you'll notice if you watch Donald Trump speak that is different from every other politician who's ever lived. Trump is winging it. He's fucking winging it. You ever seen a Trump speech? He just goes in unscripted, like off the dome. It's everything's a freestyle. It's like all a stream of conscious, just we're gonna figure this shit out together, I don't know. Politicians are never like that. Politicians are like the most careful, scripted people on the planet. They never say anything off script. They focus group test every line to make sure it plays well to the audience they're in front of. And they never take a risk. And then there's Trump. And he just lets that shit rip. Off the dome. You ever see a Donald Trump speech? Here, next time you do, notice this. Here's something you'll hear Donald Trump say. You'll never hear another politician say this ever. Donald Trump says it every speech multiple times, okay? You'll just hear Trump in a speech and he'll say this. He'll go, what else? What else? Because he doesn't even know what else we're gonna talk about today. This is a journey that we're all on. And the audience participates sometimes. Like, he'll be like, what else? And then someone's like, China. And he's like, China. And then, then he'll just do 20 minutes on China. And you're like, I don't even think we were gonna talk about China today. This guy just changed the whole thing. Now that's in the news forever. It's amazing. He just found this whole new way to do things. Like his brilliant insight was that he could run against politics. Like, I'm just gonna run against this whole thing, which is a weird thing. But politicians, they all have this agreement, like we'll all be the same type of robot. You know, we'll all be this kind of like, God bless America. And Trump was like, nah, I'm just gonna say fuck all that. And I'm just gonna do it this way. And none of them could deal with it. None of them could. Like, I don't know what's gonna happen with Trump, you know? A lot of people think he's gonna get impeached. I've always been leaning toward assassinated, but I don't know, you know? I don't have a crystal ball. We'll all find out, but it is, I don't think anyone's gonna beat him in an election. I just don't see it. I mean, like, let's get real, right? In modern American politics, to win an election, it's all about the debates. You gotta win the debates. That's what everybody watches. And who the fuck can beat Trump in a debate? Like, he found out a whole new way to debate. Do you remember when Hillary Clinton was trying to deal with him in those things? And she was still like stuck in her traditional politician world. So she would just say regular politician-y things. And Hillary Clinton would be up there and she'd be like, my opponent's rhetoric is just reckless. And then Trump would be like, your husband's a rapist. Jesus. Jesus Christ. It's like no one had ever called her out on that before. It was like they were like, Hillary, do you care to respond? And she's like, I had nothing prepared for that. My husband's a rapist. I've asked him to stop. I don't know what to tell you. I've asked him. He's not gonna stop. It's been a big thing for us, and he's really into it. I don't know. You know, I know a lot of people, like, they try to size me up. I feel like I'll talk about these things, and they're kind of like, what team are you on? And then I always have to let them know I'm not on either of your fucking teams. Like, I'm not liberal or conservative. I I hate all of them. And I just wish there were more people like that. I hate them all. How do you not? Every president of my lifetime is a piece of shit. Every one of them. They should all be thrown out of helicopters. That's the best solution I could possibly find. One-way helicopter rides for all of them. Solve a lot. I hate them all. But let's be honest. They're all charming. They're all charming. And that is why Hillary Clinton is not president. That's it. That's the whole thing. You gotta be charming. You wanna run as like figurehead for America, then you gotta be charming. That's part of the deal. Charm goes a long way, a long way. Obama was fucking charming and black. So for liberals, they were like, that's it. I can't possibly, charming and black, that's the combo, you know. Liberals were like, you had me at black, but you know, you throw that charming thing in there, there's no way. You're Jesus to them from now on. But, so there's that, you know, they're all charming. Bill Clinton was charming. That's why that, you know, Trump was the first one who ever brought up him being a rapist. I think that doesn't even really come up. And Bill Clinton's like, not a conservative, he's like the left-wing hero. Like, feminists don't even care. That's how charming Bill Clinton is. Like, they'd be like, didn't half a dozen women accuse him of rape? And like, feminists are like, well, I mean, have you seen him play the sax? I don't think, I have a tough time buying that. I don't think so. And there's, charming goes a long way. Because, you know, Obama was so charming, and that's why no one would ever criticize him. That, you know, every now and then there'd be one person who was like, you know, hey, you love Obama, but, you know, his drone war kills all these children. And they'd be like, no, not Obama. You know? But then Hillary would be up there, and they'd be like, you know, she supports that drone war that kills all these children. And people were like, I could see that. I'll be honest, I could totally, that seems very plausible. With her, like, you need that charm. They're all charming. Even George W. Bush was charming in his own weird way. He was, right? He was like, he was your friend from high school who, like, maybe he got kicked in the head really hard in, like, a terrible lacrosse accident. And then people are like, you still hang with that guy? And you're like, I've known him since high school, all right? You know, they said the reason that George W. Bush got reelected was because he was the candidate that people wanted to grab a beer with. And I gotta say, that makes perfect sense to me. I would love to grab a beer with George W. Bush. And I think he was a horrible president. But at the same time, I feel like he's the type of guy who, if you got drunk, you could get information out of, you know what I mean? Like, shit you're not supposed to have. And he'd just be like, here, let me get another shot. And, you know, you do them, and then you'd lean in, and you'd just be like, look, be honest with me, dude. You had no fucking clue what you were doing when you were in there, right? And, like, he'd look behind him and be like, I had no idea. And you'd just be like, all right, dude. You know what? I don't even hate you, bro. I don't know. It's impossible. I can't even blame. Let's do this again sometime. The point I'm making is that I would not want to grab a beer with Hillary Rodham Clinton. I wouldn't. If I got an email that was like, Dave, you've won the opportunity to have a beer with Hillary Clinton, I would reply back like, listen, I am quite certain I never entered this competition, okay? I don't know how you got my information, but you are threatening me right now. So I've contacted my lawyer. No charm whatsoever. And I feel like the whole election came down to Hillary Clinton. Because Donald Trump's a mystery. That's the truth. He was a mystery as a candidate. He's still a mystery as a president. No one knows what the fuck Donald Trump's gonna do tomorrow. Not even Trump. Like, no one knows. You talk to a Trump supporter, they'll admit that. They're like, we're crossing our fingers on this one. Like, Donald Trump could come out tomorrow and they'd be like, so, President Trump, like, what are your plans for building the wall? And he could be like, what wall? You'd be like, what wall? I mean, you've been talking about a wall for the last 2 years. You'd be like, I never said anything about a wall. That was Pence. I was never on board with the wall. Like, you'd just be like, I guess we're not doing that now, because no one knows what Trump's gonna be. But you knew exactly what Hillary Clinton was gonna be. So that was the whole election. You know, the whole election came down to, do you want Hillary Clinton or what's in this box? That was the entirety of it. And then America took a nice, hard, long look at Hillary Clinton. And we were like, we're going to need to see that box again. This is a lot closer than I thought it would be. And I don't know. I don't know if it was a good idea or a bad idea. I don't know. You know, if you were to ask me, like, hey, Dave, do you think it's a good idea to put Donald Trump in charge of the biggest military ever built by man? I would go out on a limb and say probably not. But I just don't hate him as much as the left wants me to. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, they're like, come over here and hate Trump with me. And like I told you before, I hate them all. But I won't do what they do, which is like, no, you have to especially hate Trump. And I don't especially hate Trump. I hate them all. I think this is it, right? It's about who you are, not who Trump is. And that's the whole thing with Trump. He's a buffoon, but he holds up a mirror to everybody else. And then you're like, you know what? They suck too. So it's kind of a wash. Here's how I define Trump, and this is why I say it's about you, okay? To me, Trump is like, let's say you were in the 8th grade, and there was a kid giving a book report, like to the class, like an oral presentation in front of the class. And he gets up there, and he starts giving his book report, and it becomes very clear, very quickly, that this kid has not read the book. Okay? He has not even opened the first page of the book. You know this kid, and you're like, he didn't read the book. Again, I know it. And he's just up there bullshitting. Like, he's just trying to get through it, you know? It's like, it was a really, really terrific book. Obviously it's nonsense. And then the teacher is like letting it go. Like, she's like, okay, very good, you pass, next. And okay, a lot of you guys who hate Trump, you're like the fucking nerds in the front row who took this book report really seriously, you know, and you're like, what? This is outrageous. He didn't even read the book, and I'm supposed to go next, and I did a whole report on this, and you know. And then you want me to be angry with you, but I'm not that front row nerd. That's not me, you know? I'm the pothead in the back row who's like, good for this motherfucker. I can't believe he's passing. He didn't even read the book. Good for this motherfucker not reading the book. I can't believe I wasted my time reading this stupid book. I'm probably gonna do worse than him. This is what Trump reminds me of, and I know this is a weird comparison, but do any of you guys remember, this was a few years ago, it was at Nelson Mandela's funeral. If you got, Nelson Mandela, for any of you who don't, he was like a really, really great R&B singer, and just platinum album after platinum album. Just kidding. He's a leader of South Africa. And, so anyway, I don't know who remembers this, but there was a few years ago, it was at Nelson Mandela's funeral. I am not making this up, okay? This was a real thing. It was at Nelson Mandela's funeral. A lot of great leaders came to speak. It was a big event, and they had a sign language translator. Thank you, people who remember. And I am not making this up. This guy was a sign language translator, and he got busted for being a fake sign language translator, okay? This is a real thing that happened in history. Nelson Mandela's funeral, Obama was there, he was speaking, giving his thoughts on the leader of South Africa, and there's this guy sign language translating. And look, I watched it live, and I'm not gonna lie to you people, I had no idea. If you don't know sign language, it's very difficult to spot a fake sign language translator, you know? Obama's talking, this guy's moving his arms, and you're like, checks out to me. And I'm just gonna focus on what Obama's saying. And then deaf people started complaining. A lot. Because they were like, what the fuck is this? Like, this is nothing. That's not even close to a word. Like, this is not, I have no idea what Obama's saying right now. No idea. And you know what's weird? After someone tells you it's fake, then you look back at it and you're like, yeah, that's fucking bullshit. Like, that's not sign language. That's not a word. This guy's doing like the Vogue dance from that Madonna video. Can't be words. But until they tell you, you don't know. Anyway, deaf people were furious. Furious. One, because they didn't know what was being said. But two, as I learned, fake sign language is offensive to deaf people. I didn't know that, but that's like their blackface. So don't, unless you want trouble in the deaf community, I'd say stay away from fake sign language. That's my advice to you, okay? But doesn't it perfectly kind of sum up our generation that while we're all, so infatuated with being outraged, we completely miss the story? Like, okay, you can be offended by fake sign language, but could you at least appreciate what that guy pulled off? I mean, the man was a sign language translator, and he made it to the top. The absolute top of his field. He translated for Barack Obama as he gave his thoughts on the life of Nelson Mandela. That's like the Super Bowl of the sign language translating industry. That's as big a gig as you can get. He made it to the top, and he made it to that level without learning sign language. You're not impressed? Not even a little? I don't know about you, but I want to know everything about that guy. They should make a movie about him. It's probably the greatest underdog story of all time. Do you have any idea how many people told him he would never make it as a sign language translator if he didn't get his act together, buckle down, and learn sign language? I don't either. I'd imagine everybody, though, like, probably everyone was like, that's just undoable. I mean, his father was probably like, no son of mine is going to be a fake sign language translator, and you'll come down to the mill and get a job with me. And he was like, it's my life, old man, and runs out. And I'd imagine the last scene in the movie, it's his father, and he's in his home in South Africa. He hasn't spoke to his son in a couple decades, and he turns on his television to watch Nelson Mandela's funeral. And there he sees his boy, fake sign language translating, just like he always told him he was going to, And the dad, he's not emotional, he's old school. But he gets a little choked up in this moment, and he just has that, son of a bitch did it. And, roll credits at the end of it. I'm not gonna write the whole movie, but the point is we'd all go see that movie. I think we can clearly we can acknowledge that. So weird. If I say this, the one thing I kind of support about Trump, okay, there's two things. Number one, he's my fake sign language translator. And number two, what I actually like about Trump, and this has nothing to do with politics, it's just a cultural thing. I like that he's an unapologetic man. I like that he's a man. I don't know what it is about our generation. We've become way too over-pussified, feminized. It's horrible. I don't know when it started in this country. I think it was around the 90s when we started ruining everyone who has an affair. It was like Clinton was like the first one. But then after that, it would just become everyone. Like, they didn't even need to be a politician. Tiger Woods is cheating. This is like news to us. And we can't have an honest conversation anymore. No one can just say the obvious truth, which is that great men cheat. That's why they got great. Takes a lot of hard work to get great. No one's like, I'm gonna get great so I can keep fucking my wife. That's not the plan. Like, that's not why people do that. Like, great men cheat. It's true. Let me tell you something. Before we were this immature, feminized country, do you know what journalists would do in the 50s or 60s if they found out that someone in the public eye was having an extramarital affair? You know what they would do? They would keep their mouth shut like a fucking grown-up. That's what they would do. They would go, well, this obviously isn't newsworthy, so let me talk about news. And that's the truth. And when I say great men, I don't even mean like moral. I just mean great man. But I'm sure a lot of people you guys love have Martin Luther King cheated all over his wife. That never gets talked about in the story, but Martin Luther King was getting crazy pussy in the 60s, okay? Off the charts. Do you guys think of him differently now? No. He led the civil rights movement. Who cares? You remember him for leading the civil rights movement. He gave that beautiful I have a dream speech. I'm sure his wife was somewhere in the crowd, like, I have a dream, you could keep your fucking dick in your pants for like 5 minutes. It's my dream. But whatever. It's like, good speech. Even she had to go, good speech. I'm with the cause, but, seriously. But that's it. Would you want to like ruin Martin Luther King? I don't know. I mean, do you remember General David Petraeus? He was the head of the CIA, and he had to resign because he got caught with some side pussy. Like, where are our values? And how the fuck did people not, like, what was surprising about that? He's a spy. Like, he's got all the training for it in the world. Like, why would anyone be shocked by it? And he was the head of the CIA. Like, this isn't like some nerd. Before he had that job, he ran the war in Iraq and the war in Afghanistan. And I know it's shocking that this badass motherfucker, like, in his spare time, he's not knitting like we all thought he would be. Turns out he's out there being awesome. I know that's real, like, no one could have seen that coming. So what is this about our values? Like, he was in charge of these fucked up wars. It's like, you got that wrong, 1 million dead Iraqis. Whatever, let's give you a promotion. And then it goes back like, you're cheating on your wife, you're fired. Weird fucking country. It's a weird, the ones that bug me the most, and this happens a lot, but it'll always be a new scandal, but Secret Service agents. There was just another one a couple weeks ago, got caught with a hooker. And this is a thing that happens a lot. Secret Service agents fuck hookers. It does, they've been caught several times with it. And everyone's like, oh my God, that's horrible. But it's like, no, you're fucking horrible for judging that guy. We have no respect anymore for like difficult jobs that only men do, like really difficult jobs. Like, okay, the Secret Service, do you know what it is to be a Secret Service agent? You know what that job is? The job is this, okay? You have to stand by the president, and if anyone starts shooting at him, you have to jump in front of the bullets. That's the job. I'm not being hyperbolic or exaggerating. That is the job. And it's not just in theory. Like, they do it. They do it. I don't know if you guys ever saw when Reagan got shot, but it's on video. You can watch it on YouTube. It's got like 2 million hits. And whoever put it up there is doing good. Reagan got shot, and it was just like a regular day. He was coming out of giving a speech, just walking. It was the 80s, so security wasn't so tight, They were just like, you're white, I'm sure you're cool. And like, you want to meet the president? And so, like, Reagan was coming out, and this maniac just starts shooting at him, okay? Just starts shooting. There's no time to think, no time to prepare, and this Secret Service agent, he does it. He gets in front of Reagan, and he gets wide, and he eats 2 bullets to the chest. You can watch it. It's on tape. It's incredible. It's a technique that they teach at the Secret Service. It's called the human shield. Very self-explanatory. I feel like if I was in Secret Service training, and they were like, okay, next we're gonna go over the human shield, I'd be like, I can save you some time. Like, I already get it. I get it. Like, you get in between the guy shooting and the president, and you hang out there for a while. And they'd be like, this guy's good. And this guy does it. He does it. He gets in front of Reagan, and he becomes a human shield. Eats 2 bullets to the chest. And no one cares about that guy. No one. No one. He doesn't have like a holiday. There's not a statue. Nothing. No one even knows his name. Prove me wrong. Anyone know his name? Nope. No one. Let me tell you something. I don't even know his name, okay? And I am doing a bit about this on my special. I could have Googled it at some point, but I'll be honest, it just seems funnier this way. So that's the job, okay? Hang out next to the president, be prepared to be a human shield at any moment, and by the way, also, no one's gonna give a shit. No one's gonna care. You know what? All I think they remember about that guy is the failure. The only thing anyone remembers is that Reagan got shot, you know? You look at it just kind of like this, they fucked up. They let Reagan get shot, you know? I'm sure people were giving him shit. Like they were, they were like, dude, I mean, what happened out there? You were doing great. You know, you got in front of Reagan, you became a human shield, just like we trained. You ate 2 bullets, and then you just laid down on the floor and you let our great president get shot. I mean, what the fuck? Back to Secret Service school for you. I don't think. So that's your job. That's the stress. I have to be a human shield at the drop of a hat, and no one's gonna care. You're just gonna hate me for it. That's your job. You gotta get up every day and go to work with that stress every fucking day. And then you clock out, you're on your time, and you wanna take that stress out on a cheap hooker? I don't judge you. I'll go a little further than I don't judge you. I don't think you should have to pay for the hooker. I'll be honest. I think we should all chip in and provide the hooker for that guy. I don't know what it's like. We live in a pussified, feminized culture, and we're very hostile to men. And the entire thing is falling apart. And I don't think those things are unrelated. I think it's all part of the same thing. And shit is falling apart. I know, like, I'll say that sometimes and people are like, oh, you're going out on a limb. Things aren't that bad. You know, they always like to play that. It's not, come on, it's not that bad. And I'll say it like this. I go, okay, let's say, I don't know if there's any historians in here. Tell me this, okay? You tell me when there was a country who is like a great nation, a superpower, started as a republic, then turned into an empire, and then it spent itself way too far into debt, expanded itself way too far militarily, and then the culture started to fall apart. And then everything worked out great. Is that a thing, ever? No. It all goes one way. And this is it. We're in the end of the empire. But it's fucking entertaining. No one ever told you how much fun it was gonna be. I think that's what historians always miss. Like, they're like, how do these great nations fall apart? And it's fun. That's how. Like, if you had a time machine and you could get some guy who was alive during, like, the fall of Rome, and you could talk to him, and some historian would be like, what happened? Like, how did you lose the empire? And he'd be like, dude, I just saw a lion fight a man. I don't know what to tell you, bro. It was $8 and it came with a beer. I don't know. I was having a great time, so I didn't really. But we are in the fall of Rome. I mean, that's where we are. I love the best one is the debt, because that's the best, just the best example. All great nations collapse under debt, and we are in a ton of it. You remember like a few years ago where there was like the Tea Party and the debt became like a sexy issue? That people were like, this debt's getting out of control. And then it just got way more out of control. And we were like, all right, let's move on. I don't know. I guess we didn't handle that, but like, let's. What are we now? Over 19 trillion? As I say these words, over $19 trillion in debt. And I'll tell you, a lot of people are like, well, what's the answer to the debt? I will tell you right now, right here, the answer to the debt. Just remember, you heard it here first, okay? Here's the answer to the $19 trillion of debt in America. You ready? We're not gonna pay that shit. That's it. It's that simple. We're not gonna pay it. We have no intention of paying it. It is literally impossible to pay. We're not paying that off. It's $19 trillion. You can't even wrap your head around how big a number that is. Let me try to put it in perspective. Let me put it in human terms for you, okay? Me personally, I'm like $8,000 in debt, okay? And I'm never gonna pay that shit because it's insurmountable. It's $8,000. 19 trillion? What do you think's gonna happen? Like, Trump's gonna sit down like, I came up with a plan. We're gonna put $50 away every day, okay? Every single day until this thing's paid off. Like, we put $50 away every day for 5 years. What are we at? Still 19 trillion. Okay, that's great. We're in debt. We'll be in debt until this thing collapses. It'll collapse when the people lending us money eventually go, we're not lending you anymore. That's when it'll stop. We can't pay it off. And the reason we're in debt, and the reason why we'll never get out of debt, I think is all based around, it's because we don't make anything in America. We don't make anything. Nothing's made in America. It's all made in China. Everything is made in China. This microphone that I'm speaking into is made in China. And let me explain something to you. I didn't check. But I'm right. That's how much shit is made in China. You don't even need to check. You just know. And I'm not wrong. It's made in China. I guarantee that's where they make shit. China. We don't make anything in America. Now, that hasn't always been the case. My grandfather and his generation, they made shit. My grandfather worked in a factory. That's what he did for his entire life. He worked in a factory. All of his friends worked in factories. That's all any of them did, was make shit. And they were men. You know, they could take a car apart and put it back together, like men. We are useless. We're just like a useless people. Like, let me say it like this, okay? If you were lost on a desert island with 5 Americans, you will die on a desert island with 5 Americans, okay? Guaranteed. Guaranteed. You'd be lost on a desert island with 5 Americans, and you'd be like, oh my God, how are we gonna survive? And you'd be looking around, and you'd be like, okay, sir, what did you do for a living back home? And one guy will be like, I do graphic design. And you're like, okay, well, that's useless completely. I'm like, how about you? What did you do for a living? And he's like, well, I'm a banker, but I'm in a band in my spare time. And like, I can't. It's like, Jesus Christ. And you'd be like, we're fucked. You'd start realizing very quickly how useless we are as a people. Like, we're fucked. We're gonna die on this island. And I'll tell you, you would give anything for just one Mexican on that island. One Mexican turns your whole fucking island around, dude. Let's get real. You would trade your best American for a retarded Mexican child in a wheelchair, okay? And it'd be a great trade for you. Retarded Mexican child, what did you do for a living back home? And he's like, I pick fruit. And you're like, fuck yes, all right. Fuck yeah, you pick fruit. All right, now you get over here and you teach us how to pick fruit, and we will teach you graphic design. And we're gonna get off this island, you know? We don't make anything, but we do lead the world in consuming. And I'm not making that up. That's our shit. I heard Obama, he gave a speech. It was one of his first speeches after leaving the White House. And he was defending globalization. And he was like, you know, all of the world needs each other. And he said the world needs a strong Chinese manufacturing base, and China needs a strong American consumer. Like, that's what we bring to the table. We will consume shit. if you make it for us. Also, you have to lend us the money so that we can buy it from you. But if you lend us the money and make something for us, don't worry about the rest. Like, we got that. You know, it's like I was saying, like, we're fucked. We're obviously, this whole thing is collapsing. And it's amazing, if you turn on the news, it never comes up. Never comes up. Any of this shit. Like, it's just, you know, whatever. They always try to scare you about something, and they never scare you about the thing you should be scared about. It's always some bullshit. There's the government shutdown. They love to scare you with that one. Do you ever say every couple months they're always threatening, like, if things don't go well, we could have another government shutdown. And then they'll bring in a politician and be like, is this government shutdown your fault? And they're like, no, we don't want to shut the government down. It's the other party, their fault. And like, sitting here like, who cares? Who the fuck cares? Do you guys remember the last government shutdown during Obama? You remember a couple years ago where did you make it through okay, your family, everyone's all right? So the government shut down for 2 weeks, and it was a pretty normal 2 weeks. Like, we all just kept going to work, and they were like, the government shut down, and then, you know, you're like, I guess we don't need a government. That's all you're proving to me. Like, shut it down permanently, and we'll all be a lot better off. You know, I said that I said that at a show recently. They didn't have the reaction you had. And this woman got really upset with me. And she said, she stood up and she goes, I pray that we don't have another government shutdown. And I was taken back. Like, I was like, really? Like, who cares? Like, who would say that? I was like, why do you pray we don't have another government shutdown? And she goes, I'm a government employee. And I was like, oh, yeah, that's who cares. Sorry. I'm sorry. I make a correction. There's one group of people who care. You guys. And so I was like, okay, fair enough. You don't want another government shutdown? And I asked her, I said, what do you do for the government? And she, with no hesitation, threw back at me so proudly. She goes, I work for the Department of Wildlife. And I was like, lady, I'm gonna be honest with you. I didn't even know we had a Department of Wildlife, so it's not the best thing to throw at me. You're losing a department I didn't even fucking know we had. How many useless departments do we have in this overbloated government that they're literally shutting things down that Wildlife. Wildlife. This is what you're throwing at me to avoid a government shutdown. Wildlife. You know one area who definitely doesn't need government intervention? Wildlife, okay? They will be just fine without you. I promise. You know what the wildlife did during the last government shutdown? I'll go out on a limb and say probably they continued to be wildlife. I would have to guess. I don't think it was somewhere deep in the forest. There was like a bear talking to a squirrel. Like, have you heard from Susan? Me neither. I don't know what. I'm not doing anything until I get an email because it must be some type of government shutdown. I was like, I don't. They always get you with the wrong thing. I'm not afraid of a government shutdown. I'm afraid. You know what I am? I am afraid of is cops. That's who fucking scares me. Like our own fucking cops, because they arrest you for anything. Do you ever see those like YouTube videos where like they'll be like, you know, at like a checkpoint and they're like license and registration and the guys were like, you don't have the constitutional authority to have my license. And you're like, Jesus Christ, bro. People really believe in shit. It doesn't matter how ridiculous it is. People believe in these crazy, ridiculous, made-up mythologies, just like ridiculous, untrue things that you're taught when you're little. You know, stupid shit like you have rights. And then people believe that, like it's a real thing. I was talking to one of my friends, he was like protesting the cops, and he let this fly out of his mouth. This is even worse than you have rights. He said this to me, he goes, you know, what's fucked up about the cops is they work for us. I was like, what? No, they don't. No, they work. I'm sure you were taught that in like a civics class somewhere, but that's just bullshit that they say to like keep you in line. The cops don't work for us. That's like, that's testable. You think the cops work for us? Okay, let prove it. I want one of you guys to go outside right now, round up a bunch of cops, and just, you know, start bossing them around a little bit. And we're gonna find out pretty quickly who the cops work for. Amazing. They go, the cops were, and so I said this to my friend, and he got very defensive because I started making fun of his, and this, you know, when you challenge people's bullshit mythology, they tend to get defensive. So he's like, well, no, I'm not saying like they work for us, but what I'm saying is the way the system is supposed to work is I pay my tax dollars and that pays his salary. So he works for me. And I was like, okay, that is some interesting logic right there. Okay, so you pay your tax dollars, that pays someone's salary, so they work for you. Well, here's the part of that equation that you are willfully leaving out. You don't choose to pay your tax dollars. You fucking have to, okay? You have to. You have to at the threat of violence. At the threat of, we will throw you in a cage if you don't pay these, and then you pay them. Someone doesn't work for you if you have to pay them after they threatened you. Someone only works for you if you choose to pay them. That would be like if someone mugged you, and then you were like, okay, I guess that guy works for me now. I mean, I'm paying his salary. It wasn't until he threatened me that I paid his salary, but under this retarded logic that I've cultivated, I guess this guy works for me now. And I'll be honest, I wasn't even planning on hiring a new employee today, so it's been a pretty good day for me. This was my day off. If you pay your tax dollars and that pays someone's salary, not only do they not work for you, you work for them. Literally. Literally. You work, and you get money for the work, and then you give it to them. You work for them. And then they've got you so mind-fucked that not only do you work for them, but then after you give them the money, you go, sucker. And like, I mean, that is some unbelievable shit. I wish I had thought of it. They don't, anyway. That's what I'm scared of. I'm scared of the cops. They always want you to be scared of some bullshit, but I'm not scared of ISIS. I was never scared of ISIS. Were any of you? They never did it for me. They just never. I almost felt bad for them after a while. Like, you're like, good try. I don't. The news wanted you to be so afraid of ISIS. So the news would be like, ISIS, you know, and you're like, okay, get to the weather. I thought Al-Qaeda was scarier than ISIS, a lot scarier. And the news tried to make it out like ISIS was next level. You thought Al-Qaeda was bad. Get ready for it. But really, Al-Qaeda was way scarier. First off, Al-Qaeda pulled off a way bigger attack, a way bigger, you know, it was like planes into buildings. They changed the New York City skyline. I mean, it was a high level terrorist attack. And on top of that, it was a different time. We didn't even know terrorism was a thing. Like before 9/11, it was the 90s. I know a lot of you guys are too young to remember, like you guys don't remember, but the 90s was a different fucking time, okay? Like it was a party. It was just like the tech bubble was booming, Clinton was getting blowjobs, everyone was having fun. America was just a big $15 at the door, all you could drink. Welcome to America. Let it rip. Nothing wrong here. Peace and prosperity. And then 9/11 happened. And we were like, what the fuck? Do you remember the first reaction that we had after 9/11 was everyone said, they went, why do they hate us? That's how clueless we were. We didn't even know there was a beef. Like if you had asked us on September 10th, you were like, oh, what do Muslims think about America? You'd be like, that we're awesome? I don't know. Like, what else would they think? And then September 11th happened and we were like, whoa, like why do they hate us? And then people were like, well, you know, you've been bombing the shit out of them for decades. And we were like, what? That doesn't sound like us. I can't imagine. And then you look at it, you're like, they were pissed off about that. It's like, yeah, it was a big deal to them. It was a big deal. But they came and they pulled that off, and it was like, okay, here's a new thing, terrorism. You got to be afraid of that now. And then the media, they were like, okay, you thought Al-Qaeda was bad? Well, here's an even scarier group. And you're like, I'll just kill myself right now. I mean, that's just horrible. And then they roll out ISIS. And it was never like, they're like, what does ISIS do? And you're like, well, they just took over a city in Iraq. And you're like, okay. Like from who? And like other terrorists. Okay, so it sucks no matter what over there. All right, it's pretty far from me. Just saying. The other thing ISIS does is they go, well, ISIS has shifted the focus of terrorism from America over to Europe. And you're like, wow. Kind of sounds like Europe's problem now. I mean, I'm sorry. Again, that's a whole ocean away, so I'll just kind of stay here. And then you're like, what, so are we just like off the hook? Like, do they not do anything to America? And they're like, no. Oh, they'll attack America. What they do is they inspire lone wolf American citizens to shoot other Americans. And you're like, okay, so that's the fear that they're bringing to us, is the fear that Americans will shoot other Americans, a fear that we've already been living with for decades in this country. Like, that's what we already do to each other. We already, in record numbers, like alarmingly. We kill 11,000 of our own every year with guns, and then ISIS, you know, they're like, well, you know that mass shooting last week? That was us. And you're like, oh my God, that terrible shooting on Tuesday where 13 people died? And they're like, no, that one was you. But there was another one. There were two last week. And you're like, oh, okay. What a weird thing to try to terrorize us with. You step to us with what we already do? Like, what's your next master plan, ISIS? You're gonna find a way to make our kids fat? Like, really, sit down, take your time, plan this one out. It's disgusting. Just let us collapse on our own. All these wars are bullshit. They're all completely sold off bullshit. I can't believe everyone doesn't see that. Like, if you remember the last war, you should just see through this war, because they're all the same story. Every war of my lifetime is the same story. It always has the same elements. It's always like an Islamic country, and there's always an evil dictator and a young rebel group. Those are always involved, okay? And then they'll come to the American people, and they're like, okay, there's this evil dictator, and he's evil, and he's doing all these horrible things, so we have to go overthrow him, okay? And what we're gonna do is, we're gonna fund and arm this young rebel group, and they'll help us overthrow the dictator. And they're like, this is a foolproof plan. It can't possibly go wrong. There's nothing bad that could happen here. We've looked at this from every angle, and it's a slam dunk. Their words. And then they come back in a few months, and they're like, okay, listen. We had a little bit of a hiccup. Everything was going good. We went in, we overthrew that dictator. He's no longer a problem. The young rebel group, who we armed and funded, they helped us overthrow the dictator. All went according to plan. Unfortunately, that rebel group has taken over and formed a far worse dictatorship than the last dictator who was in there. I hope you understand that we have to go back in and overthrow this awful dictatorship. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna fund and arm this young rebel group who will help us. Don't worry, this one's gonna be on point, I promise. And then they come back in a few months and they're like, we should have seen this coming. Right? And it's just a circle, on and on and on. And then eventually you're just like, no, don't overthrow the dictator. Don't, just leave him. I know he sucks, it's gonna be worse, trust me. So we gotta just stop. I don't know, it's just so obvious, right? It's like, there's an easy solution to all of these wars, okay? I have it right here, okay? It's a two-part solution. Step one, end all the wars. Just end them all, bring all the troops home, close every base, we bring them all home immediately, okay? Step number two, and this is important. We're gonna have to move Israel to Canada. Now, I know that one's a little tougher, but it's really important that we complete both of these steps, okay? Either one won't work without the other. We are going to have to move Israel to Canada. It's the only logical answer to solve these problems. Okay, I don't know, have any of you guys here, anyone ever been to Israel? Okay, back me up. It's tiny. Anyone ever been to Canada? Huge. Huge. And Canadians only use like 4 or 5 parts of Canada. We could put Israel any number of places in Canada, and it'll be 10, 15 years before the Canadians even figure out that Israel's there. We'll just be out one day like, what the fuck is Israel doing here? And we'll be like, we should have told you. Or we should have. And they're Canadian, so like they'll be passive about it, They'll be like, don't let it happen again. And, don't let it hoop in a goon. And they're go fucking play with a hockey puck or something. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. And a lot of times I'll say that like Israel just needs to move. Like Jews get offended by that. And like, I'm not a religious guy, but I'm Jewish. Like that's my crew. And I'm not insulting them. Like I'm saying on behalf of Jewish people, I just go, look, you live in the worst neighborhood in the world, okay? Like the worst neighborhood ever. And everyone hates you. So just like on a human level, if you lived in the worst neighborhood and everyone hated you, what's the solution? Move. Isn't that not obvious? Just move. I said this once at a show, and these Jewish girls got really offended. These 4 Jewish girls, they confronted me, long skirts and everything. And they were like, got in my face, and they were like, how can you say that? How can you as a Jewish person say that? That's horrible, okay? That is our land, and we have a right to that land. Which caught me off guard, because it was like, I never said anything about you having a right to the land. I never said you didn't have a right to the land. That's not my point. My point was everyone hates you. Move. who has a right to the land have to do with anything? Like, look, I respect property rights as much as the next guy. Even more, I'd say. But is this really an issue of property rights? Like, look, I don't know what land I have a right to. I mean, I have an apartment, and I signed a lease. So I guess as long as I make my payments, I have a right to that apartment. But if everyone else in my apartment building moved out, and then a bunch of furious Muslims with rocket launchers moved in, I would just break my lease. I mean, I wouldn't sit around arguing about who has a right to this apartment. I have a right to this apartment, and I will deal with these furious Muslims all around. I would just move to an apartment building that doesn't have that problem, like one in Canada, because that's where they don't have that problem. That's the solution. That's it. And I know a lot of you'll be like, okay, Dave, that's good for a chuckle. But it's not a serious policy proposal, okay? You can't just force a few million Jews out of their home, make them relocate halfway around the world, and think everything's gonna work out okay. Exactly. Of course you can. That's the entire history of my people. That's all of Jewish history in a nutshell, okay? We get forced out of one place, our home. We have to relocate halfway around the world, and we fucking figure it out. It's what we do. I know you guys will be like, well, no. I mean, you can't just pluck the Jews out of this hot, sunny desert, drop them off in the middle of this cold Canadian snowy forest and think they're gonna be okay. I mean, they'll starve. And I'll be like, yeah, give them a couple days. And then you'll come back a couple days later and you're like, oh, they opened a small business. Look at that. A thriving small business. You come back in a year and we're running the banking system, all right? Holy shit. New York City, man. I have 11 years I've been doing stand-up, and I've thought about this first comedy special, and I'm so happy to do it right here. I couldn't have done it for a better crowd. Thank you guys so much. I fucking love you guys. I love you guys. I appreciate it so much. Thank you. Thank you guys. You're the best. All right. Good night.